So good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are at, and welcome to today's webinar, part of our Sharing the Vision, Culture Change in Action webinar series with Pioneer Network. I'm Joan Devine. I'm the Director of Education for Pioneer Network, and so pleased to be bringing you this webinar today, Improve Your Dementia Support. You can start tomorrow, or even this afternoon, I guess. Our presenters today are Donna Moore from Park Springs Continuing Care Community, and Bob Sherwood, who is going to be having a host of other individuals, all from Shenandoah Valley, Westminster Canterbury. Just a little bit of logistics for the webinar. You will be getting some information following the webinar that'll have a copy of the slides and this wonderful video that you're going to get to see, and also a certificate of completion. Everyone except the speakers, are muted. But there is a chat box there, which obviously most of you have found. So please, if you have any questions or comments, type them in. And at the end of the webinar, we will take some time to answer those questions for you. And I think that's about all that we need to say to get the webinar started. So this webinar is going to start a little bit different. We have a video. So you're going to watch this short video for 20 minutes, and then we'll
trained staff on how to approach those with dementia. Our panel today is going to look particularly at the question of what can be learned, what can be taught in the way of skills at the threshold moment, a difficult time before there's a final diagnosis that may be valuable later on. Jeannie, hi, good afternoon. I think this is great that you're participating in our webinar, partnering with Park Springs down in Atlanta.
Absolutely, excited to do it.
Yeah, it's exciting. So you're going to be the first person on our panel this afternoon, and let's talk a little bit about the context of what we're doing here.
Okay.
Dementia is something that's been with human beings for an awfully long time. But the approach has not been always the same as now.
Exactly.
And but we've had some advances in the last, well, certainly in the last 100 years, from being locked up and well, treated badly. But often families just took care of the person in the home and did the best they could. But there were a lot of misunderstandings of what dementia is. Now we've learned that it's a deterioration of the brain. And I think Teepa Snow and Dr. Al Powers, among those, probably the real pioneers, cutting through and saying, okay, there's still capability. These people have had great lives and they're still fully capable of many things. And so take it from there. Where are we now in that regard?
Oh, wow. So I guess what I've learned over the years is that we have more to learn. So we've learned a lot. And I think what we just need to continue to educate ourselves and others, because that is how we're going to that's how we're going to provide the best care for our residents living with dementia. And the most important thing that we have learned is that persons living with dementia are doing the absolute best that they can. If anyone needs to change, it's us. So we need to change the way we interact with people living with dementia, the way we approach people living with dementia, and because the goal is really to provide the best quality of life for them. That is the absolute goal. So at Westminster Canterbury, we have been expanding and enhancing our memory care program as part of our strategic plan for many years. Why? Because it's the right thing to do, and our residents deserve nothing less. So that's being creative, it's having fun, it's learning new things, it's pushing forward. And if you go into it with that attitude of constantly learning, everybody's gonna benefit from that.
People have a sense that dementia is so strange that only real experts can.
No. You know, we are not dementia care experts. What we are is a group of people committed to making life better for persons living with dementia. You do not have to be a highly credentialed scholar or a PhD to learn and to practice dementia care. What the participants are going to hear from today is our staff who are making a difference, our staff and residents who are making a difference each and every day. You know, whether it's fitness, whether it's someone in our maintenance department, you know, everybody has a role to play. And again, I'm not a PhD. I'm just someone who loves doing what I do, and that's what it takes.
Well, Jeannie, thank you very much. We'll go to the panel,
Okay.
And we'll watch the interviews and come back to you for a closing.
Sounds
few
great.
words.
Thank you.
Okay, hey Mike.
Hey,
How
Mr.
are you
Sherwood.
doing this afternoon?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
We're here in the shop.
Yes, sir.
You're one of the guys who's on the teaching team for the positive approach to care.
That's correct. I'm a coach.
For our dementia folks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
How's that going?
Great, great.
Yeah.
Just got recertified today.
Okay.
Yep.
The question that we're working on is, we've talked about it before, but what is it that you would want to suggest to other communities?
Right.
Whether they have a lot of resources and a lot of skilled and credentialed people or not,
Right.
that the community would want to undertake in improving their support for those with the dementia?
Well, I think what I'd like to suggest, or what I like to try to do, is when I get with another resident living with dementia, is get to know that person. Try to learn the core, the type of activities they liked when they were younger, in the movies, maybe the sports, activities, so I could try to make an inroads to what they liked, to get something common with them. And then that would open them up and see if they like humor, and investigate that, and then really try to get a good rapport with them. Try to understand their life, give them some pleasures in life that they've had over the years, as far as like what brought them pleasure, because it's been a time now of, you know, loneliness with everybody having to be separated, and try to bring back the good memories.
Yeah.
And successful.
Yeah, you're kind of surprised that they're able to do more than you might have guessed.
Oh, absolutely. They've lost some, but they still got a lot.
Donna, I know you've had some experience because you've been supporting a young woman with autism for what, about 14 years?
14 years.
Yeah, and you've also been supporting our people in the memory support area, Blue Ridge.
Yes.
Helping them with exercise.
Absolutely.
So the question is, what would you want to suggest to really any community that wants to improve their dementia support, whether they have advanced degree staff, credentialed staff, or not? What are the things that are most important to do to improve support for those residents living with dementia?
Well, one of the most important things that I have learned over the years is time. Time means everything. You have to make sure that the person may not recognize you every time, but they will know that they know you from somewhere. And so spending time with them, you'll get the true meaning of their emotion, if they're happy, if they're sad, if they're lonely, if they need more interaction, if they need to laugh, if they like to sing. Being the exercise person, that's the first thing that I do. I try to find out if they like to walk, if they like to listen to music while they exercise, just things that will really make them happy, make them feel secure. And so too much talking, especially for me, is something that I have to really pay attention to. And so if they do better with some kind of signal, some kind of sign, perhaps come here. That if they know you and then you say come here, they'll recognize that, and then it'll come to them who you are, and you're a safe person, and you're somebody that they can open up with. And just spending time with people, getting to know them, letting them tell their story, or maybe not talking at all, just if they look at you and, you know, you can basically tell, you know, just by common sense sometimes of, you know, how they're feeling that day. If they look lethargic, or if, you know, if they ask you for food, you know, they're hungry, you know, just simple things. And it may be that they may not be hungry, but they're just thinking of a favorite food, so maybe just a conversation.
Donna, Richard, thank you for showing that.
My pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about the possible connection between Tai Chi and dementia, its application in dementia, particularly dementia at the early beginnings, the threshold period.
Okay, it's my opinion that that in dementia you're concerned a great deal about stress and trying to alleviate stress in the individual. So if you notice in the very beginning, when I very slowly breathe in and very slowly breathe out with Tai Chi, that right away I'm telling my mind that I'm not in a fight or flight situation. I stop pumping adrenaline, and right away I start pumping endorphins. So Tai Chi embraces good health procedures all throughout the form. There's a concentration on synchronizing your breathing with all of the movements. There's a concentration on keeping your posture correct, and also in keeping your mind at ease all the way through. And I think that these things are important for anybody facing dementia.
Talk a little bit about the possibility of training someone in this, perhaps as a brand new exercise for them, something they've never done before, and then the possibility that they can continue to track and grow in the meditation motion as they go deeper into dementia.
It's interesting when people look at Tai Chi being done, they say to themselves, oh, that's really easy. But in fact, Tai Chi is very complex. However, Tai Chi can be broken down into stages, and you can build upon each stage. So starting with the simplest things, you learn how to walk, you learn how to breathe properly, you learn how to keep your posture straight up and down. And then as time goes on, you can get more involved in the in-depth level of learning how to synchronize your hand movements with your foot movements, your body movements, a lot more complexity to it. But regardless of age or regardless of your capabilities, anybody can learn Tai Chi, even if they only learn the first basic moves. They can benefit from that.
Do you know of any place where Tai Chi has been used to support those with dementia?
Well, there are a couple places that come to mind. At NIH, they had a program for soldiers suffering under PTSD, which is, in my mind, more of a stress issue, but nevertheless, they found that Tai Chi was a good way to address calming the people, getting them focused on something other than their daily problems. And as I mentioned, Tai Chi can be complex, so the more that you think about Tai Chi, the less you think about these other issues and problems.
Well, Richard, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Very helpful, very suggestive. Richard's comments lead to the suggestion that one of our wait-serve staff people, Heather Underwood, made, and that is that sign language, teaching signing, could be a very important coping skill. It's been useful, of course, with infants and children and in other contexts, so that might be another suggestion you could look at. Gail, good to see you here in your art studio. You've had an interesting career. Art's been key to that, and you've come to Westminster Canterbury because your mom came to be a resident, and then she went into a dementia. Help us to understand how art can support those with the dementia, particularly at the beginning of at the threshold of a dementia. And tell us a little bit about your mom.
Okay, I'm glad to be here and be part of this. My mother developed dementia, and she painted, and she also did play piano. And the one thing that I noticed was she stopped doing those things early on. because she knew how well she could do them, and she couldn't do them as well. And so she stopped for a while. But then that creativity was still there, and she started again. So, but that period of time where she knew she couldn't play the piano the way that she used to, she stopped playing. So that was very scary time for her. So if you see that, know that that's could be part of the process. So now she does paint, and I bought her a little keyboard, and she plays that. And her motor skills, you can watch her hands, and her hands still move in the same way, although she can't play a tune like she used to.
And have you seen that in other residents too?
I have.
So it's a common pattern then?
Yes. So you stop because you know you can't do it like you want to.
How have you found yourself helping others to recover their creativity in art?
So I come up with different ideas of projects that we can do. And a person who is first going into dementia, I try to maybe give them watercolor paper with the drawing already on it, and watch them play with that, and watch them be successful. And that's one of the first things to do, is make sure that the person is successful. And so I always start with butterflies. That's just the way I am. So, and butterflies are beautiful, and they can be any color, so it doesn't matter. But I also, you know, as art teachers, we're always dealing with a budget. And so there's a lot of things that I just keep my eyes open for. And I buy things used. There's a lot of things that are donated, because people have garages and basements full of art materials that they don't use anymore. So I'm going to show you a couple of projects. This is one that you can do very simply. You can use construction paper. This was a used frame that I found. I probably paid $1 for it. And a lot of the people in our dementia unit used to do quilting or some sort of fiber art. And so I thought, let's do something like that. They don't have the dexterity to sew real tight, or the eyesight. Their eyes aren't that good. So what we did was we painted paper, but you could use anything. You can use construction paper. And then I knew the size of the frame, so I cut the squares up so that they would fit. And we made a paper quilt. This is a project when you're thinking about people who are engineers or people who enjoy geometry. So I got old picture frames, and somebody donated a bunch of glass squares, and we did these. They would lay it out, and then I would take it back to the studio and put the glue on, because the glue is toxic. The other thing that really got people talking to each other was a project we did with plants, and I wanted to stimulate their senses, so I used plants that were smelly, like rosemary and lavender, and different plants from my garden, and even tomatoes. I mean, there's a certain smell to tomatoes. And we used clay, and they know how to roll a rolling pin, and they rolled out the clay, and they pressed the plants in. And the interesting thing was, we started talking about gardening, and most people have gardened. And the conversation was just, it was like they just went outdoors, and it was just so flowing, talking about their gardens and smelling and the textures, and it's all very stimulating. Plants are very, very healing. So these are some of the projects that I've been doing with our residents.
We interviewed one other staff member, Mike Rice. However, Bill Young, our intrepid cameraman and guru and fellow resident, we're not able to video Mike because here at Westminster we have a number of internal preventative measures to protect against the corona-19 infection. Mike's a med tech with long experience, and he now works in our Blue Ridge memory support area. His suggestions run along these lines. Use whatever it takes to find out, particularly at the threshold, what the core of the person's life has been, what their central passion was, and then find ways, clues, triggers to help the person get back to that anchor. A clue or trigger may be an object, a sound, a gesture, a phrase, whatever. Eye contact is very important. Don't overwhelm the person with multiple thoughts. Keep it simple. Then work to support the person's capabilities that are still there. Things like humor, relationship, creativity, intense emotions, particularly awareness of the deep mystery of life itself. You join their journey. Don't invite them to join yours. And as they say in the Navy, it's not a job, it's an adventure. It's challenging, but it can be done. He suggests anyone can do it. We hope our panel has given you some suggestions that you can use fairly immediately. One last step suggestion I'd like to offer is that people with dementia can experience, among many other things, many capabilities, is embarrassment. And it's important to sense where that embarrassment sets in and how you can get beyond that. That's where the richness comes. And it requires sensitivity and work, but anyone can do it.
All right, I just wanted to kind of close our session out by thanking everyone for spending time with us and hearing a little bit more about our story. I hope that some of the things you learned or heard will resonate with you and your communities. And you know, it goes back to the old saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And really that is just the goal with dementia care. Have fun, be creative. You know, you will be rewarded for your efforts. So stay safe and stay well.
Okay, and we are back to our presentation, and I hope you enjoyed the video. In this day of creativity and new ways of doing things, Bob and his team came up with a new and innovative way to share the voice of the elders and those closest to them, the care partners at Westminster Canterbury, and we appreciate that, and there'll be time for some questions. But now we're going to move on to Donna, and Donna is going to share a little bit from her perspective on this topic. So Donna, it's all yours.
Thank you, Joan. It's a pleasure to be here with everybody today. I got to say, Bob, you've set the bar very, very high. That was a fantastic video, and I'm just proud that I've learned about some things that we're going to do at Park Springs here. So thank you for that, and thank you, Joan, for this opportunity. I want to talk about 5 things you can do today from the perspective of your physical environment. And I want to share some things that we've done at Park Springs. We're on 61 acres in a suburb of Atlanta in Stone Mountain, Georgia. We have independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing on our campus. Much like Bob, we're a life plan community as well. Next slide, please. So I want to start with creating meaningful life stories. And what we mean by those is creating life stories that people can see and read and touch. And I'm going to show you an example in just a moment, but we really focus in on celebrating and honoring the lives of our elders and maintaining those connections that they have had to their past as a way for our care partners to get to know them and to engage them in conversation. It's really going back to someone's purpose in life meaning. And we create these life stories, and we actually, and next slide, please, We actually engage their families in creating these lifestyle stories outside of their bedroom. We have designed our health center and our memory care into two households. We practice the household model of care, and outside everyone's private bedroom, they have their life story. And you can see on the slide in the upper left, Miss Martha was a master gardener. And you see her gloves there and some of her gardening tools and her hat, her certificate. You also see how she grew up, and you see a little bit about her family and what she liked to do, including travel. And we use this story and we use these ticklers when we are engaging with Miss Martha to talk about gardening. When we were in our lock-in most recently, I got to spend some time with Miss Martha, and she really educated me on how to take care of the hostas in my yard. And she was just a wealth of information, and I wouldn't have even known if this life story hadn't been outside her door. The other picture there is of Mr. Clark. Mr. Clark went to the University of Georgia, and you see his diploma in the middle of the screen. He was also in the military. He also traveled a lot, and he's got some pictures from the Great Wall of China. And it really gives you something to talk to Mr. Clark about. I also went to the University of Georgia and could engage with Dr. Clark in conversation, albeit he's not as vocal as he used to be, but he would smile at me with his eyes when we would share stories. And, you know, it's just heartwarming to be able to find a way to connect with all of our members just by spending 30 seconds looking at their lifestyle or life story outside their door. Next slide, please. The other thing we do relative to life stories are our team members' life stories. And this is the life story in a book of Tim Knight, who is our Executive Director of Organizational Development and Training. And Tim's on the call with us in the audience as well today. Tim's life story, the cover of his book, you see his picture there, and he identifies as a father, a husband, a dog lover, and a farm boy from Maine. And his passion is culture change. And having Tim's life story, as well as the life story of our employees on the shelves, the books on the coffee table for our members and their families to read, also connects us with the members' families. And it encourages sharing. It encourages building with families and conversing with families. You'll see members and their families with a book talking about one of their favorite care partners. It also had the unintended consequence, and it was a positive consequence of having a positive effect on our team, because every member of our team has their book in memory care on a shelf or on a coffee table, and everyone gets to share their life story. And so I don't know that we fully understood what a positive effect it had on our team, but it really, really does, because we really are all in this together. Next slide, please. So number one, of course, is meaningful life stories of your members as well as your team members. And number two is one that is still even controversial inside our own business, is we eliminated uniforms. And we eliminated them in memory care as well as in skilled nursing. And I'll tell you why. Because when someone that is taking care of you has on a uniform, it feels clinical and it feels like they have power over you. So what we did is we said, you know what, let's just try it. Let's get rid of the uniforms, and we never went back. It decreases the us versus them feeling. It also feels like a true home. And in our household model of care, where we all wear what we would normally wear at home, and we do, we wear blue jeans, we wear t-shirts, we wear whatever we want to wear. it feels like family. It doesn't feel like you're taking care of others. It feels like you're taking care of your family. We also wear pajamas and house robes at night. A lot of our members at night would feel uncomfortable that, why don't I have on clothes? You have on clothes. Why don't I have on clothes? Am I supposed to have on clothes? So our team said, you know what, let's start wearing pajamas. And they do. And it really makes a difference for our members. And if Tim Knight were giving this presentation, and what he said to me is, Donna, make sure you say that we are all about not having controlling care. And even the impression of a uniform feeling like our members are being controlled is not okay. And so we have positively, absolutely, are on a mission to eliminate controlling care, no matter how big or how small the tactic. But we love the fact that our folks don't wear uniforms. Sometimes we have to convince family members that are new to our household model of care that that's okay. That's okay. Why don't your care partners have on name badges? Why don't they have on uniforms? How do I know who they are? You'll know them. You'll know them. They don't have to have on a uniform to be known and to be seen by you. Next slide, please. This is one I really love. Jackie Hurt, who is also on the call with us today in the chat room, has done a really outstanding job of coaching our folks. She is one of our lead trainers, and one of the things that she feels very strongly about is creating a relaxing space. And sometimes you'll find me down there. Sometimes you'll find our owner down there. It really is a quiet space. It has the aromatherapy going. We have the nature scenes or the calming music on. You can curl up with an Afghan on the couch. You know, sometimes you just need a place to go for 10 or 15 minutes, whether you're an employee or a member. And because we've really taken the structure out of our day and we don't have a set calendar, people eat when they want to eat, they nap when they want to nap. You know, throughout the rhythm of the day, you'll find folks hanging out in the formal living room, which has become our relaxation space. And again, you'll find employees there as well. I've been known to sit down there and just catch my breath for a few minutes. Next slide, please. Fourth, and this is really easy to do, is engage your members, your elders, in meaningful and purposeful work. And you see a picture here of one of our members in memory care, and she helps us set the table at night for dinner and arranges our centerpieces. Some of our members help with meal preparation. Some members want to, deliver meals to the table. They clean, they dust, they help clean their own room. They can make beds, they can tidy up, they can lead an activity. I will tell you one of my favorite things that I did while we were in lock-in was that Miss Emma and I would play Jeopardy on the TV at night. Here in Atlanta, it's on at 7:30. And, Miss Emma has dementia, but when she got into the zone to play Jeopardy, there was no beating her. I mean, she knew all those answers. So sometimes it's just as simple as having Miss Emma gather folks around to play Jeopardy after dinner. And that we have folks that file for us. We have folks that, do other activities around the house. And why do we do that? Because we are a household, we are a family, and it gives our members meaningful work and purpose. Next slide, please. And then my favorite is add lots of color. And what you see here is you see a yellow wall in the background, you see a purple wall, you see a green wall. I doubt any of us would paint our homes like that, but in memory care it works. and you see the picture in the bottom there on the slide. How many of you would paint your kitchen or your dining room orange? But for us, it works. It gives us brightness. It gives us different colors to break up space. A lot of our members identify where their bedroom is by what color the wall is around their bedroom door. And for a couple of bucks, you can run down to Home Depot. And if any of you have ever noticed that that cart that they have by the paint station, that's all the return gallons of matched colors that no one really wanted when they got home and brought back. You know, it's a really inexpensive way to brighten up your environment. You know, let your members help you color the wall. You know, you can also bring in colorful items such as wall hangings and pictures and pillows and blankets. There's one picture missing. I have a picture for you, and I'll get it to Joan in the final version that you post, Joan. But I call it the Pepto-Bismol wall, and it is a bright, bright pink. And everyone loves that Pepto-Bismol wall because it separates our two households from one another. Again, these 5 things are things that you can do tomorrow, or as Joan said, you can do later on this afternoon. Run to Home Depot and get a bucket of paint that's been brought back because someone didn't like the color. Make it as bright as you can. You know, take a chance and paint a wall and see what happens. You know, give your members, your residents, your elders meaningful chores in the household, in the community. Think about life stories. Think about eliminating uniforms. If you're not ready to go all in, do it on Fridays and make it fun. You know, create a relaxation place. For, you know, a few bucks, you can buy one of those aromatherapy machines, dim the lights, find an Afghan, and just make it real comfy and cozy for your members. But those are 5 things that we've done at Park Springs that really matter in our households, that really matter in our dementia care. And I'm happy to share them with you today. I'm thankful for the opportunity and look forward to answering questions.
And Donna, we have a question. Carol asked, how do you manage to get these new awesome ideas approved by state licensing entities?
Well, you know, sometimes you ask for permission and sometimes you ask for forgiveness. You know, there is nothing in our rules and regulations in Georgia that tell us how you have to dress to come to work. There's nothing in our rules and regulations that tell us what color your walls have to be. So, you know, I know that we have bumped into a lot of skeptics at the state level. But we've worked on them for several years, Joan, and many of them now are converts. Jackie and Tim have done a very good job of bringing them to the light from the dark side. So we've had pretty good success.
I love your beg forgiveness instead of ask permission. It's a little scary if you're the administrator with your license on the wall, and we recognize that. We've got some time for questions. So Bob is with us live as well as Donna. So please ask some questions. You might want to share a little bit, Donna. You mentioned lock-in. And I know because I know what you did, but I think some of our attendees may not know what it was you have done over these past months with COVID-19 and within your community.
Would love to share that. Thank you, Joan. In the middle of March, we decided as a leadership team at Park Springs that in order to keep COVID off our campus, we had to lock ourselves in. And we asked for volunteers, and we got about 60 employees that volunteered to move on campus. And we moved on campus over the course of 3 days from March 30th to April 1st. We did not leave until 77 days later on June 13th through 15th. And we lived on campus and we took care of members and they took care of us and we took care of each other. And I lived in a tent on an air mattress in Community Hall. Jackie and Tim were also living on campus. And, you know, it was really special. We had folks in all levels of service living on campus, taking care of our members. And I was fortunate. I got to be in the health center. And Joan, I learned so much about myself, about our team, and how much they love our members. I learned so much about our business and our operation. But 77 days is a long time to be away from your own family while you're taking care of your work family. But to a person, we'd all volunteer and do it again.
I think for any skeptics out there that doubt the sincerity and the passion that providers in our world have, that is a wonderful story that just shows how great that passion is. And it's one of, we know so many stories that have been taking place and have been living across the last couple months as people have faced COVID. Let's see, Michelle had a comment. None of these ideas are contrary to CMS regulations and are good ideas that make sense for residents. Absolutely. And so as we've got a little bit more time for questions. So Bob, I wanted to ask you if you had anything that you would like to say. And you have a wonderful team at Westminster Canterbury, and it's so wonderful to hear from your elders. And I know you are such an advocate for the voice of the elder.
Well, Donna, I really want to applaud for everything you said there, and I'm amazed at how well our insights and yours complement each other. They kind of reinforce in a lot of ways, but you've tossed out some ideas that we ought to be starting tomorrow, if not this afternoon. Just great stuff. Our video got a little chopped off at the end there, so our CEO, Jeannie Shiley, wasn't able to be heard saying that where we go from here is just think in terms of fun, having fun, and be creative, use your imaginations. And Donna, your suggestions there are certainly filled with fun, imagination, creativity. And I think that's really the key. The journey toward improving dementia support is really just beginning. I think, as we said earlier in our video, that Teepa Snow, Al Powers, and some other folks took the insights of neurological science and have realized, wait a minute, there's a lot more we can do. And so I challenge everybody to have fun.
Well, and Bob, we do have a question for you. You mentioned gardening and plants. Can you talk a little bit about how this has blossomed during the COVID crisis?
It wasn't a dementia concern, really, but our community started maximizing the growth of vegetables on campus to supplement, to boost the food supply, because the food supply chains have been very shaky at times, and this continues. So our dining service director, Danny Festa, remembered when he was a kid living in Manhattan, and on hot summer nights, everybody would sit out on the fire escapes. And but people were growing vegetables in 5-gallon pails there. So we started doing that here. A lot of our balconies sprouted vegetables. We're just starting to harvest the beans and the tomatoes from the vegetables. It hasn't gone easily, but everybody's having fun. And they report they're getting up in the morning and going to the balcony to see how did the beans do overnight. But we put a couple of tomatoes into our memory support, into Blue Ridge, as we call it. I haven't been able, because we've shut down internally, so there's not easy communication back and forth, but they're working on those tomatoes in their courtyard. So we're hoping to find out a little bit more about how that's going. Also in assisted living, a lot of people suddenly remembered that they used to do some gardening and now they want to do it again. So we've been having a lot of fun in that way.
So there are some silver linings that will come from these challenging times that everyone has gotten through. Well, this has been a wonderful, wonderful presentation, Donna and Bob and your teams that were a part of this, whether they were physically with us or not. We know they were a big part of the stories that you both shared, and we are so grateful, and some wonderful tips that you have presented. I want to share a little something. If you want to hear more from Bob and his team and Donna, and what's happening at Park Springs, they're both going to be part of our Envisioning the Future 2020 and Beyond, our virtual gathering. And you don't have to just save the date. You can actually register now because we launched this new adventure yesterday and we're pretty excited about it and hope that many of you will be able to be a part of it. Also wanted to let you know what's coming up in our webinar series. In August, Dr. Susan Weary is a phenomenal speaker and physician, common sense, down to earth, and she's going to share safe and unsafe leaving, a new way to think about an old problem, elopement, which I know is something that many, many organizations struggle with. And Susan also is going to be a speaker at our virtual gathering. We also then have in September our Better Together series, which Pioneer Network does jointly with Eden Alternative. That's going to be Human Resources Interrupted, Improving Retention Through Innovative Employee Engagement Practices. And again, Jane Keller is going to be with us for our virtual gathering. So we put together the best and the brightest there. And then, oops, this one I'm not going to show you because we're not doing that one. We have resources that are available through our resource library that we hope that you will utilize and share if you have some great ideas too, because we know how important engagement is, and certainly what Bob and Donna have shared with us today really reinforces that. I also want to, whoops, we went back to the beginning. I also want to thank everyone who has been a part of this, and a special thanks to Benjamin Somi and the team from Kolsch Communities who have helped to sponsor this webinar for us today and hosted it. You will be receiving, if I do this right, here's an offer to send some feedback. You're going to see if this worked for me. Click here, and you're going to get an offer to give your feedback on this webinar. That's always important for us to have that. And then we hope to see you on future webinars. And I think if that's it, then I think it's been a pleasure having you with us. I once again thank Donna and Bob and all of you for taking some time out of your day to be part of this. And we wish you a very good day.